You know what game I like? Wii Tanks. Wait, I'm being serious! Wii Tanks, or as it's better known as, the only good game in Wii Play. Well, billiards is alright too, I guess. For all 2 of you that are uninformed, Wii Play was a compilation of minigames released back in 2007, or at least for us in the West. The 5th best-selling Wii game, in fact, but I can assure you this had very little to do with the game itself. Every copy of Wii Play came included with a standard Wii remote, and this was during a time where the Wii was the hottest thing since Wonder Bread, and a single Wii remote was a whopping $40. So, when Wii Play came to store shelves, priced at $50, bundled with the Wii remote, it was like, damn, what a steal. It's basically like a $10 game. How could you go wrong? Then when we got home and played it, we were like, wait a second. This game sucks! Battery-ass play isn't god-awful or anything, but for a collection of only 9 games, you'd think they'd all be a little bit more in-depth, but they're even more simplistic than what we saw in Wii Sports. For your first introduction to the Wii, these can be pretty fun at first, but they wear out their welcome pretty fast. This is a video about the Tanks game in particular, but for the sake of not having to cover this game again in the future, why don't we take a quick look at what we got. First up is Shooting Range, which is basically just Duck Hunt. Not bad, and your targets change each stage for a bit of variety, but personally I think I'd rather play Duck Hunt for the novelty of the zapper. Find Me, it's Where's Waldo. Most of the levels you just have to find 2 Miis that look the same. Table Tennis. You would think this would be pretty cool, having to swing your paddle to hit the ping pong ball and whatnot. Nevertheless, all you actually do is point at the screen where you want your paddle to be. It's basically just a glorified version of Pong. Speaking of a glorified version of Pong, laser hockey is a glorified version of Pong. It always kind of bothered me that both this and table tennis were included in Wii Play. Neither are terrible or anything, but for only 9 games, you would hope they'd all be a little bit more distinct from one another. I mean, you have one version of Pong where you move the paddle left to right, and then another version where you move it top to bottom. Great. Pose Me, a game where you move your Mii in a bubble to other bubbles. You have to change your pose in later levels, but that's basically it. Billiards, the first game on here that's actually worth a damn. You can't go wrong with a classic game of pool, and it works pretty well here. I'd personally rather have had a game of 8-ball opposed to 9-ball, though from what I understand, 9-ball is much more popular in Japan, so I guess it makes enough sense why they chose that instead. For what it's worth, it's still a lot of fun, so I can't really complain. Fishing, easily the worst game if for no other reason than it reminded me of how terrible the original Wii sensor bar is. Like, holy moly, this thing does not work well at all. You're supposed to catch these fish, but the controls are more of an obstacle than these Crayola drawings are. Charge. This one is alright. You hold your Wii remote sideways and tilt it left or right to steer the cow. The whole game is just you running over scarecrows and reaching your goal. Pretty rudimentary, but again, it's fine. Lastly, there is Tanks, which is the game that most people remember from Wii Play, and for good reason. I mean, the rest of this video will be mostly covering just Tanks alone. So, to be fair, it's not a terrible selection of games. And really, that's the most accurate way to describe Wii Play. If someone ever asks you, hey, how's Wii Play? All you need to say is, eh. But if we consider Wii Play to be a $10 game, given there are 9 minigames here, we'll be fair and say each game should be worth $1, even though technically each is 1.1 repeating. And if you look at it that way, yeah, most of these probably can't even justify a single buck. It's strange too, because clearly so much time and effort went into Wii Tanks, but then, well, what the hell happened with the rest of the game? Almost seems like a mistake, to be honest. Like, how did the guys who made all these lazy-ass games have to make one brilliant game that's like 10 times better than everything else in Wii Play? To put things in perspective, I'd say this one simplistic game in Wii Play alone is worth $5, and Wii Play still isn't a $10 game. Anyways, I just wanted to get all that crap out of the way so we can focus on the real star here. So, holy crap, Wii Tanks is brilliant. In the Tanks game, you are a little blue tank facing off an onslaught of other toy tanks. You move with the control stick, aim your cannon by pointing with the Wii remote, and shoot by pressing B, alongside bullets. You can also lay down mines with the A button. The goal of each wave is to eliminate all the enemy tanks. You keep proceeding for the levels until you run out of lives, or if you're Legend, reach the final stage. Needless to say, simplicity is Tank's biggest strength. And yet, for the simple set of tools provided, there is so much strategy that you can incorporate. You can ricochet your shots off walls to get enemies behind cover. You can destroy some blocks by using your mines for different routes. You can shoot oncoming bullets as a means of defense. You can use your landmines as a spacing tool to prevent enemy tanks from going a certain way. You can even use your mines to kill enemies through the walls. In addition, there's a handful of different colored tanks that all behave differently, so in turn, require you to approach them differently. Some can lay mines, some can't move, some shoot missiles, some play offensively, others play defensively. In fact, the white tanks can turn invisible, and even change the pitch of their engine sound depending on if you're playing offensively or defensively. Or at least that's what I read online. I didn't notice it myself, but I read it on the internet, so I'm sure it's true. The tank colors are as follows. There are the brown tanks, which are the first type you see. They can't move and they're not too smart. They shoot every once in a blue moon. So if you somehow die to one of these guys, exit your nearest 10-story window because hot damn you're bad. I mean, you can literally just roll up to these guys and they still won't shoot. The gray tanks are your first mobile tanks, but they're not too good either, so nothing to worry about. The teal tanks are probably the first type of tank that strikes any sort of challenge. Instead of standard shells, they shoot incredibly fast missiles. Not to mention, they're not complete idiots, so you gotta watch out for these guys. Yellow tanks are decently fast, but they won't won't shoot much. However, they will place mines all over the place. Much like your own mines, these are proximity, so I wouldn't advise getting near them. Red boys are the introduction to the really good tanks. These guys are smart. They will lead their shots and will fire multiple rounds at once. While their bullets may be slow, they will bounce off walls, so you gotta be cautious. Green tanks. Green tanks can't move, but they very accurately calculate missile shots that rebound off walls. Trust me, these guys are a pain in the ass. There's a lot to say about them, and we're definitely gonna get to it later. Purple tanks. They're basically the faster and smarter version of red tanks. White tanks. The white tanks, as mentioned earlier, are interesting because they will become invisible at the start of the round. Watch the tracks their treads make to keep a visual on their position. The very last tank introduced are the black tanks. They're the fastest, the second smartest, and they shoot missiles. That might seem pretty bad, but by the time they're introduced, each stage is just a cluster of different enemies anyway, so it's not actually that bad. The different variety of enemy tanks, the varying layouts, there is a surprising amount of strategy for such a simple game. This is the sort of game design I love to see. It's on the Smash Brothers level of stupidly simple to understand, but hard to master. And Jesus Christ, is it hard! Literally, you ask anyone who's played Wheat Tanks what they think of this game, and I guarantee you just about anyone you talk to will make some sort of mention about how stupidly difficult it is. You know what though? We're gonna buckle the hell down and we're gonna do this. 20 stages. How bad can it be? No! 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 Stages 1 through 4 aren't too bad, but as early as stage 5 is when they introduced the missile launchers. But whatever, we got this. These stages aren't too tough. They introduce the yellow tanks that lay landmines at level 8. As stated before though, they're pretty slow, so not a huge deal. Red tanks on 10. These guys could be pretty hard later on, but they're a bit of a pushover on this level in particular. Level 11. A bit trickier, but still doable. We got this. It's in the bag. Don't even sweat. Fun and games ends on stage 12! Stage 12 is when it really starts kicking you in the shins, because that's when they introduce these bastards, the green tanks. Holy smokes, screw these guys. To put things in perspective, I've shown tanks that can lay mines, fire multiple bullets or rockets, the white ones straight up turn invisible, then the black tanks are stupidly smart and fast. In fact, they can outrun your bullets, and yet with all these different types of tanks, these green ones that can't even move are the worst. What makes them so bad? They shoot super fast rockets that can bounce off 2 walls for one, and the way they calculate their shots is ridiculous. They will never shoot directly at you. Instead, they will plan out a sequence of walls to ricochet their missile toward you. Not only that, but they will typically watch what direction you're moving to lead their shots. What's so hard about this is that all the other tanks shoot right at you. So even if you don't have enough time to evade the shot, you can still shoot any projectile coming towards you to dispose of any attacks. But yeah, good luck trying to do that with this. Precisely aiming with the Wii remote is already hard enough as it is. But then trying to calculate faster than the game which angle the missiles will come before they hit you is nearly impossible, even if you think you're in a safe spot. These dickholes will quickly demonstrate the various ways in which they can connect a shot with your quote-unquote safe spot. Look how fast it can kill you on stage 17! In fact, look how fast it can kill you on any stage! Just to give an example of how smart these guys are, check this out. This green tank here is chilling all the way on the other side of the map, and he still calculated a shot that almost killed me. Fighting these guys is like trying to outsmart a calculator. Also, yes, this game gets stupidly difficult as early as stage 12, so you can imagine how crazy hard this game is by the time you reach the end. The purple tanks are introduced in level 15, but they're not so bad. Things can get a little hectic, but God, no! No! Okay, I got back to mission 15. I didn't freaking die this time. We even got a 1-up. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. On top of the 3 lives you start with, you receive an additional life for every 5 stages you complete. It's not much, but in a game as hard as tanks, you're going to need every bit of help you can get. You know what stage is harder than stage 15? Stage 17. You got 6 green tanks ready to snipe you if you make one wrong move. And believe me, you will. What makes this stage even harder are all these damn walls obscure the missiles that the enemies shoot. You straight up just can't see the bullets if they're behind a wall, which is a pretty big problem. If they want to have this angled top-down perspective, that's fine, but the bullets should highlight red or something when they go behind blocks. So many of these deaths, even outside this stage, have been due to a bullet I couldn't even see. If you're able to clear mission 17 though, it's in the bag. Stage 18 and 19 are nothing to write home about. And then you've made it. Stage 20. The final mission. You're placed in an open arena against 2 invisible tanks. Spam your way to victory, and at long last, you've done it. If you've made it this far, then give yourself a pat on the back. Making it through all 20 of these nail-biting stages was tough, and it probably took an hour or so of practice. But it's all over now. There's more than 20 stages, aren't there? Oh boy, here we go. in my excitement of finishing what I thought was all the stages. I mean, how could I not when stage 20 literally says final mission? I found out via the internet that there aren't just 20 stages. There's 100 of them. What the There's 100 stages, but we played as that terrible thing where it prevents you from passing stage 20 until you've beaten 20 stages on the previous run. In other words, for the game to even allow you to get to the later stages, you have to first beat the first 20 rounds, go back to the menu, and then start up a new game. And I hate this crap. It's such an anomaly. And even though I can't think of another game that does this off the top of my head, I know I've ran into this before in other Nintendo games because it drives me up a wall every single time. The only thing I can think of right now, and it probably doesn't count, is the Binding of Issac. The very first time you beat Mom, it plays a cutscene and boots you back to the menu, but on subsequent playthroughs, it lets you proceed to the womb. However, I don't think this counts because it's not nearly as bad in Isaac as it is in Tanks. Sure, you can't proceed to the rest of the floors until you play it again, but you're rewarded with a cutscene. And also being a roguelike, every playthrough is different. Tanks, on the other hand, goes up to you and says,
"Oh wow, must have been pretty hard getting this far, huh?"
Gee whiz, you can say that again.
Yeah, well, f*** you, do it all again.
What? Will it at least be slightly different?
Nope.
I ain't no quitter though, so we're frickin' doing this. Alright, here we go. I'm feeling this one. I'm going to get to stage 100. Okay, well, not a great start, but I still got this. As long as I can make it past the dreaded stage 17, we'll be a- Stop! This is the hardest damn stage! Yes, that's right. Even though there are still 83 stages left to go, it's stage 17 that is the hardest. In fact, I don't know if it's because I got better or the stages actually got easier, but once you do the first 20 levels, you're probably good to go, at least until you get into the 50s. I nearly lose all my lives getting up to stage 20, but for whatever reason, after that, I rarely died. I think a big part of that is that Tanks recycles the stages. Sort of. See, starting with stage 21, you start to see the level layouts reused. They will change out the tank colors used, but otherwise, the level design itself has been untouched. Not all of the levels on your way to 100 will be retreads, but again, many of them will. I genuinely believe this is why the game seems to get easier. Stage 17, for example. I've told you how stupidly difficult this stage is, but a big part of that is the color of the tanks being used. Having 5 green tanks in a level seemingly designed around their strengths is nail-bitingly stressful. But here we have the same layout in stage 68, and it's a complete joke. This level was hard because it was designed with the green tanks in mind. So the second you swap out the tanks, the layout no longer coheres to the abilities of the enemies. Something else I should mention that I didn't even realize until I was scripting this. Apparently, starting with stage 21, all of the levels are randomly generated with the exceptions of stage 50 and stage 100. I seriously would have never noticed this was it not for the fact that I was watching other people's gameplay when I was doing my research. As for stages 50 and 100, stage 50 is when they introduce the black tanks. They're the fastest and they shoot ricocheting missiles. As mentioned before though, green tanks are still the hardest tanks to deal with, so I wouldn't worry about these too much. Or at the very least, the amount of times I died to the black tanks doesn't even compare to how many times these green boys have killed me. Because with the black tanks, you can roll right up to them and just mash the B button to counter every shot they'll fire at you. Unlike the green tanks, they will always make a clean straight shot right towards you. For all their strengths, they're predictable. Which is why, despite being the last color introduced, I don't think they're the hardest. Since they will only ever try to make direct shots, you can really use this to your advantage. On stage 84, I didn't even bother leaving my little cubicle here to get them, since I knew they would only start shooting if they had a direct line of fire. I took advantage of this by instead bouncing my shots off the wall to get them. You learn pretty quickly which tanks do what and how you should approach them, and you will need to learn how to approach each tank if you plan on getting to level 100. As for stage 100, it's stage 1 again, except someone just vomited all over the screen. There is no clever design around the final stage. They kinda just throw all the tanks you've been seeing throughout your quest in one single level. To be fair, it does make for a decent challenge. Just please don't get a game over if you actually make it this far. Get through that endurance of a stage and you've finally done it. For real this time. You have fully completed Tanks, and will be rewarded the platinum medal in Play. Now you can eject that shit out of your Wii and never play it again. If you guys plan to champion all 100 stages yourselves, you better grab a few beers, or soda if you're not of age. I don't condone underage drinking. Grab a friend to talk to so you don't get mad, and put aside your entire day because I guarantee you'll be at this for hours. Not including the additional time I spent failing over and over and over. On a successful run, getting to stage 100 takes about 2 consecutive hours. The last thing to discuss is the multiplayer. And I know this has been a surprisingly critical overview of a pretty solid game, but this multiplayer really needs to be addressed. Tanks is one of those games that takes some agnostic-ass approach to the multiplayer. And you know what I'm talking about. Those games that can't decide whether or not they want to be competitive or co-op, so they just throw their arms up in the air and go, oh. what you get is a game that really isn't good at either. In the 2-player mode, it still has the level completion structure, but if both you and the other player die on the same stage, it rallies up who's killed the most tanks to determine a winner. I freaking hate this. Since there is friendly fire, there is incentive to kill the other player so you can get all the tanks for yourself. But if you do that, you are less likely to see the other levels. Then again, the 2-player only goes up to round 20 anyway, so, like, what were they going for here? It's like in Zelda 4 Swords, where you need to work together to reach the end, but at the same time, since there is a competitive aspect to it, everyone just ends up holding each other back by screwing over the other players. It always kind of bothers me when games do this competitive/co-op thing. Seriously, just pick one or the other. It would have been really cool to see a true versus mode in tanks where you have to eliminate the other player. Or conversely, a true co-op experience that gives each player a pool of lives, and gives you a combined score. What we got instead was a combination of both, and it seems like missed potential. The multiplayer, alongside Wii Tanks on a conceptual level, has so much room for innovation and improvement. It's kind of a bummer Nintendo never went back to visit this. Come on, Nintendo, give us a standalone Tanks game on the eShop of multiplayer. Give us co-op, give us versus. I mean, hey, if all these Battle Royale games coming out, Fortnite, Apex, hell, even Nintendo themselves have their own in the form of Tetris 99. Here's what I say. Fuck Tetris 99. Where's our Wii Tanks 99? I was messing around mostly, but I kind of unironically want that now. I mean, can you just imagine...
Hey, what's up? You look different. Before it kind of looked like you were pushing some placeholder style that was unintentionally used for 2 years. But you know, now I finally got a quick update. What, too meta?
Are we just not addressing the fact that you smashed through the wall on the bulldozer? Is that what's going on right now?
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
SilokHawk's videos suck and he's a dumb genwater! Okay, you can end the video now.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'll be uploading a bit more frequently since I lost my job again. So in the meantime, I'll be trying to finish up my Patreon request. My Patreons such as Amanda Guth, Rami Batter, Martin Hersedhagen, please let me know if I pronounced that correctly, Silver Skeleton, Cashinator, Q, Praetorian Mars, and Abby Knutson. Thank you all so much. And until next time, have a good one.